Ah, that's some good water. Anyway, it's a Renegade Master. Today we're going to be doing a reaction video. Unlike before, this has nothing to do with gaming and is somewhat informative and, it's more grounded, I suppose. We're going to be reacting to. Let's leave it like that. Coffeezilla's latest video titled "The Bank That Won't Let You Withdraw." Now, the video did come out 8 days ago, but I haven't really had a chance to watch it, and I really like coffeezilla. I like making reaction content, so I thought, why not? Why not just make this video? As well as I am associated with this industry, but I believe everything within it has nothing to do with Australians, as this guy's American, and I reckon the individuals within this video are all American, and so is the supposed banks. But the sentiments are still the same. It's still affecting people. It would suck if it happened to anyone here in Australia. So that's why I'm going to react to it. So let's get into it.
Today we're talking about a bank that won't let you withdraw your money. A bank where almost $100 million has vanished. Or has it? Because
Wait, excuse me?
Almost $100 million has vanished. Or has...
Yeah, I'm starting to believe this bank is a bank already.
Because I've traced some of the missing funds, and I think some people are hiding the truth. Even worse, our regulators and safeguards may have failed us. Let me show you what I mean. Today we're talking to a bunch of people who found their money frozen.
Bro, I have to say, I've been watching this guy for ages. His content, the quality is insane, bro. I want to know who his editors are. Holy shit. Oh, and I haven't even said this yet. Think of coffeezilla. Think of this guy as like a financial PI. But instead of like private investigations, it's like on... This probably wasn't the greatest comparison. Think of him as like a detective but instead of doing it in secrecy, he's I guess he's more like a journalist then. Fuck, I am not cooking today. He's like a financial journalist, like a reporter, I suppose. It's a better way to put it.
Was in their bank last year. 6 months later, they started getting paid out, but some of the money is missing. Welcome to the Discord Diner. All right, let's start with the basics. What is your name and how much money did you have on your savings app?
Well, my name is Colin. My savings was $53,105.95.
How much are you getting back?
Not a single penny.
Damn. Okay.
Hey, wow. My name's Dave. I lost more than $70,000.
Fuck. Okay, I'm not laughing at this situation, I promise. I know that was very, very rude. It's just, I don't know, I just for some reason this guy, just him, the way this scene is recorded, it just looks like he's like a bad guy in like a movie plot, and like now he's about to like tell the world his manifesto.
I received back from Evolve was $0.
Oh my, 70k plus, bro. Jesus. Reconciliation. Wait, hold on. I just have to search something, because I haven't heard the term reconciliation before. Let me just make it bigger. Oh, typing with one hand is so fucking cooked. Holy shit. As a confession, what the... Because the term I hear... Oh my god, my English is fucked right now. This is the term I think would be associated with, the way he's using reconciliation here. I've heard of the term remediation. It's I think I've used it in one of the older videos I made on this channel. But it's saying here, No, reconciliation and remediation are not the same, though they can be related in certain contexts. General meaning: reconciliation, in its broadest sense, is about restoring a relationship or bringing things into agreement or harmony. What? My god, bro. In finance. Reconciliation is the process, and remediation is like ah ah. Okay, so reconciliation is the process, and remediation is the what do you call it, the action. Maybe this is an American thing. Yeah, because I don't know, that's a bit unusual to me. Or maybe I'm just getting
Hi,
the
my name is
terminology wrong.
Benjamin Schwartz. I had
But it's it right there. Okay, whatever. It's such a minuscule detail.
$43,000 that I put into my savings account. I consider myself one of the luckier ones in the situation. I was offered 36,000 back. So I lost a total of
Hey, what kind of bank is this, bro? Holy
$7,000 in the
shit.
situation.
Hi, my name is Jamal. I have received a little over 6,000 back. I'm still owed 11,000. My wife has received $100 back of her.
Hey, yo, nah, that's a slap in the face, bro. If you were in this situation, and like you were offered $100, would you be happy with that, or would you just prefer them just to give nothing? Cause I don't know, if I received just like a speck of what I had, I'll be more insulted. But I don't know if that's like a universal thing, or that's just me and my ego.
$55,000.
Now, this was obviously surprising. People who had put their money in a savings account were told they don't actually have that amount. Instead, the bank told them, we're going to give you whatever we think you have. In some cases, it was pennies on the dollar, seemingly at random. And to explain this vicious game of financial Russian roulette, we're going to have to map out what's really going on here. All of the people you've been hearing from save their money in fintech companies like
Aha, okay, fintech, okay.
and others. Slick
Wait, I've actually heard of Yota. From my understanding, I thought they were like a lottery, like a lottery thing. So I don't know how they're considered a bank now.
financial apps that are not banks, but took
The fuck?
deposits while advertising FDIC insurance.
Wait. Okay, so right now he's showing that he's saying that what we just heard with the customers, and that had accounts in these banks, and that they're claiming the FDIC insured, which already kind of doesn't make sense.
Insurance.
see.
They did this using a middleman called Synapse to connect
Okay,
them with a real
Synapse.
bank called
So I guess Synapse is kind of like a brokerage of some sort between like fintechs and banks.
Evolve Bank.
Right. So Evolve is the actual bank that is FDIC insured.
Trust, who
Okay.
was FDIC insured in the event of a bank failure. So FDIC insurance, which is an American program where banks are insured with up to $250,000 against bankruptcy failure, it doesn't apply here because a bank didn't fail. A middleman did. Theoretically, everyone's money should still be
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, wait. Okay, so that's the customers we just heard, right? They use these banks. I don't know how the fuck they're using Yoda. They're claiming they have this, but they don't actually have this. It's actually Evolve Bank. But how these guys are even communicating is because of a broker, Ridge, like a brokerage, right? But they're saying that, well, he's alluding to the fact that they failed. And he was mentioning bankruptcy, so it couldn't have been them. It's definitely not them. So the brokerage.
bank didn't fail. A middleman did. Theoretically, everyone's
Wait, so he's saying that Synapse got bankrupt?
money should still be safely held at Evolve. But this
Hey, hold up. What the fuck is Evolve, bro? I've never heard of this bank. First State Bank. Formerly First State Bank. Fucking Google, bro. It's America. Okay, so it's not. God, do I really have to specify, bro? Holy fuck, man. Okay, let's see this. Sorry, I'm sorry about this. I'm just really interested. Okay. 2005. Oh, so like they've been doing this. Interesting. That, so wait, is it 2017 they became evolved? Is this what this article is alluding to? I mean, this is Wikipedia. Alright. This is me from the future. Ooh. I just realized my dumbass didn't comprehend the fact that the article from Wikipedia is stating that they became evolved in 2005 and that the bank was called First Bank since 1925. Yeah, I'm a dumbass, bro. What can I say, man? Regardless, let's just carry on.
This is where our mystery begins, because as the bankruptcy carried on, Evolve said they didn't have all the customers' money. There was a giant gap between what Synapse said they had versus what Evolve did. According to the Wall Street Journal, up to $96 million might be missing. Evolve Bank claims they're not the problem. They literally don't have customers' money because they were told to send it to other banks, like AMG and Lineage. Why? The story goes that in late 2023, Synapse...
What? Bro, is that even a common practice?
Synapse wanted to diversify banks instead of relying on just one. So they set up relationships with other banks like AMG and Lineage to hold customers' money.
I guess because Synapse is a brokerage. Well, I'm guessing. It hasn't been explicitly stated yet. I mean, I could just search that up, but I'm taking so long.
Diversify makes sense. Now, most customers weren't aware of this change because it was only noted in an opt-out email basis sent.
If you do not wish to have a brokerage account opened on your behalf, you should promptly contact us. If you opt out, we will send you a notification that your accounts will be closed.
To customers, meaning if you didn't see it when it came through, your money may have been moved without you ever knowing or approving it.
Wow.
Normally, this wouldn't matter, and some fintechs like Yada even pitched it as a way to get increased FDIC insurance coverage, which in hindsight is ironic. But the effect is that everyone's money was shuffled around like a game of three-card Monte.
Damn.
Of course, Synapse, in theory, should have records of where all that money went, but Synapse is now in bankruptcy, and not everyone agrees with their numbers.
I mean,
specifically, Evolve Bank and Trust, who says they don't have as much of the customer funds as Synapse says they do. To prove it, Evolve hired Encura Consulting to do their own reconciliation of the bank's balance sheet, and their numbers versus Synapse's numbers is what has created the gap. These results were given to customers on November 4th, the day before the presidential election. Always a pretty good day to hide bad news. That is, you don't have as much savings as you thought you had. Customers are understandably confused and angry. Whoever's fault this is, it's not theirs. So that's what we're trying to uncover. Where is this nearly $100 million of missing funds? Somebody has it, but everyone's saying it's not them. The other banks, AMG and Lineage, by the way, do not deny they had some of the money from Evolve, but they tend to agree with Synapse's version of the ledger and have already paid out based on that.
It has paid out approximately of the. It has paid out approximately. Okay.
Meanwhile, Evolve is also saying they've paid out their fair share. So we're stuck in this horrible situation where people are using different ledgers to say, oh, we fully paid out everyone. And some people are getting pennies on the dollar, seemingly at random.
My name is Max,
I mean, we've seen a few $0, bro.
and I have a little bit over $21,000 in a Yota account.
How much is the bank gonna give you back?
Evolve is going to give me $17 back out of those $21,000.
How does that feel? I mean, what is that like?
Oh man. It's just the how does it feel question. I know it kind of has to say in this context because it's pretty important in the video, but just imagine just going up to someone, right, that just went through the worst experience of their life, right, and they're just telling them, how does it feel, man? I don't know, if someone asked me that, bro, I'd be so fucking annoyed, man.
A slap in the face. It's an insult. Honestly, I would have rather them not giving me anything and
I said the same fucking thing.
say that they cannot proceed with the complete reconciliation that they initially intended to do.
Because like, look, when the video first started looking, I was like, especially when the financial technologies were mentioned, I was very close to just writing it off as, oh no, this is the customer's fault, right? But then the FDIC insurance was like prevalent here. You know, both of those financial technologies were claiming that they have that insurance. So to the like, I guess with that in mind, it does make sense why a lot of people were very trusting. And you know, it's a pretty bad look on those companies that are financial technologies. From my experience, because I've talked to some of the representatives of financial technologies in Australia, they seem like good people. They seem like they know what they're doing. So it's a shame that there are some similar technologies out there in different parts of the world that are kind of making it seem like it's untrustworthy, you know. Giving financial technologies a bad look.
Give me scraps and then basically washing their hands with it.
My name is Pblar, and I put $20,000 into my Yada savings account. After the reconciliation, Evolve has told me that they're going to offer me $700 out of that $20,000.
Insulting. It's insulting.
So my name's Corey, and I had about $34,000, a little over $34,000 left in my account at the time of everything being frozen. So they are giving me back $0 out of the $34,000 that.
Because like so far in this video, the way I've been processing this is right now that Synapse is kind of like the evil, I suppose, of the situation so far. Right, I have something telling me that just because of how confusing it's been, like how convoluted rather this video has been so far with all the elements and all that, it's not as simple as that. I mean, he even said in the start that it's more complicated than that. So, I mean, we'll see where this goes.
Supposed to have.
Now, with so much on the line, all of these banks have been desperately trying to put out their side of the story, with specifically Evolve's being the most different. And they've been sharing screenshots of hundreds of millions of dollars moving from their bank to these other banks, saying that they just don't have the money. Whereas Synapse's CEO, on the other hand, has been very vocal as don't have the money. Whereas
they need to do the hard work to understand what actually went wrong for meaningful reform. It's shocking what Evolve has gotten away with. Even beyond the Synapse issues, the lack of understanding is alarming. As a reminder, before Synapses wind down, Get Evolve 1925 took $7.9 million from customer FBO accounts for themselves. as per their own filings, and possibly did it again after the wind down. Keep this in mind when they finally admit to the shortfall. Wait, who the fuck is this guy?
From their bank to these other banks saying that they just don't have the money. Whereas Synapse's CEO, on the other hand, has been very vocal at.
We are aware of the recent press release issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, which we believe contains several inaccuracies and misrepresentations regarding the court hearing and Judge Barash's ruling. It is important to clarify the facts and set the record straight.
As well, even one of the fintechs, Yada, has sued Evolve.
Wait, what? Bro, I swear to God, they were a lottery. I don't know how. Okay, whatever. So wait, let me get this straight. Yota and Juno, they are using Synapse to get FDIC insurance by working with Evolve Bank and Trust. Synapse so far has somehow messed up. I don't think he's really got into detail specifically on like what the mishaps were, besides the fact that they lended out monies. Oh my god, they lended out monies to different banks. Why am I saying that so retardedly? Okay, whatever. So they lended out these incomes. Why am I saying incomes, bro? Fuck's sake. You get what I'm saying. To these other banks. So far, that's the only mishap I've seen Synapse do. And now, all of a sudden, one of the financial technologies is actually suing the bank that's regulated.
But at the end of the
Like, what the fuck is happening, bro?
day, it's become a bit of a he said, she said, where everyone has their own numbers that they're using to say we're right, but it's hard to rely on anyone's word. So I wondered if we could trace the problem ourselves a little differently, not relying on any one source, but instead going to everyone, just asking questions, and maybe finding some different threads to pull on that gives us insights. And this is where things got interesting. Little by little, I was able to get a bunch of internal emails and documents between these companies. Even get...
How? Wait, that's actually insane. Maybe my private investigations depiction of him isn't so bad here after all.
detailed banking records. All of this showed big problems, but they had been brewing for much longer than I thought. Way before everything blew up in May of 2024, rewind the clocks back to when everyone's money was in one place at Evolve.
Oh, wait, give me a sec. I have to do something. Okay, I'm back. Let me just go back a bit.
Let's look at some internal clocks back to when everyone's money was in one place at Evolve. And let's look at some internal documents that were sent to Synapse. It's September 25th, 2023. That's the day Evolve sent notice that Synapse had breached the Master Services Agreement by failing to fully fund the FBO account. By the way, FBO just means for benefit of. Plain English, it means it's the customer's account. The money people were putting into these fintechs wasn't fully funded by what was in the actual bank account per their agreement. That's what Evolve says. Evolve then demands $50 million in a reserve account to be filled within 2 days of the letter. They also notify Synapse that they're going to take $16 million from what is called the Synapse's fee account to hold it for end users, aka customers. Now understand, the fees, that just means the interest Synapse would have been paid on the cash they hold with Evolve. Synapse, of course, is a middleman, so a lot of that money they're going to make from interest is just passed on to fintechs like Yada, who then in turn passes it on to customers. So if Synapse is short $16 million, that means Yada and now a lot of people are short $16 million. Everyone's getting squeezed, but that's just the start of the problem. So you remember, Synapse owes $50 million in the next 2 days. But when it comes due, Synapse gets a termination letter from Evolve, and then they send their own email. Now, before we open this, understand, customers had no idea that their money might not be fully funded at the bank and were never notified of these problems. Everything you're about to hear is being whispered in emails right now. And what is being said, like deliberate misstatements, factual realities, potential harm, these are white-collar words for, hey, we think this is going to end a disaster and we think you did it. But of course, nobody knows that yet, except for Synapse and Evolve. Synapse even seems to anticipate this would eventually go public because they write in their letter, "We do not expect this response will prompt significant change, but we hope it will correct the record and provide factual transparency to those who may read your letters." Like us, for example. They're anticipating outside parties.
So remember at the start when I was saying I first thought, well, let me get some lighting in here. Oh, please follow me, camera. Follow me, please. Right. So remember when I was first saying that I think that at the start that Synapse, sorry about that, Synapse were the bad guys. Just from the wording alone, it's making me think now that it's Evolve. Well, at least at the moment, because I know at the start he's saying that it's bigger than just one individual or one entity's fault. But
we're gonna come.
Yeah, right now I think it's Evolve.
Come in and read all of these. Now, in here we find Synapse blaming the
So since this is a convoluted video, I'm just gonna blame certain individuals or entities as the video progresses, because I think it's gonna be a very messy video.
Efficiency in the customer account on Evolve. They accuse Evolve of misappropriation of funds, a situation caused by Evolve itself. Synapse claims that 12 days prior they had notified Evolve that Evolve was charging fees from customers' accounts that they shouldn't have. Basically, they were payment processor fees. The payment processor was called TabaPay, and this should not have been on the customer to pay it. According to Synapse,
the fuck is TabaPay, bro? Hold up. So many like pieces of the puzzle, bro. Instant money movement for fintech. Is it like a payola for like fintechs? Is that what I'm understanding? Oh, bro. This is a typical Google moment. TabaPay. What are they? Okay. Enables instant. I reckon this was already in the. Whatever. I'm a dumbass. Instant payments for. Yeah. Okay. So like a payment service.
About $12 million in fees were charged to their customers. And Synapse says this $12 million should not have been on the customer to pay it. According to Synapse, about $12 million in fees were charged to their customers. And Synapse says this $50 million demand.
Is there any proof of that? Because that seems very damning.
You guys gave us, that's retaliation for us telling you that you have been misappropriating these funds. Synapse then also highlights a $13 million account analysis charge that was also improperly taken from customers' money. So both sides are basically demanding tens of millions from each other. And we'll get to some concrete evidence in a moment, but I want to flag that for right now, Evolve, Synapse, the chilling realization is that whoever's right, this collapse began over a year ago. And more important,
hey, it's bad if it's bad if two like financial institutions are basically having like a verbal battle in written. They're kind of like dissing each other in the terms of formal letters. Jesus, bro.
Before the migration of funds out of Evolve Bank.
Wait, I missed the chunk with my fucking this retarded commentary.
This collapse began over a year ago. And more importantly, before the migration of funds out of Evolve.
Alright. So these two had an issue way before that agreement happened. Jesus Christ. I mean, if what Synapse is saying is true, Evolve just looks like the biggest piece of shit.
Banking experts who have been...
And mind you, Evolve is the legit bank in the scenario. Besides AMG lineage, but as he stated, those parties became involved after.
And watching this unfold, by the way.
Did you see that guy's eyes?
Have commented on this. Jason Mikula is our fintech and banking resident expert. He agreed to help me get to the bottom of this. And here's what he told me.
In my mind, one of the biggest worst decisions was allowing this brokerage migration to take place, which is on both Synapse and Evolve, right?
Yeah. I still can't believe they did that though. Involving other banks, bro. To manage funds from clients, bro. That seems stupid. But I guess now it makes sense why Synapse did that. Because at the start I was very confused. Why did Synapse do that? But if Evolve is using clients' funds, it makes sense why Synapse gave it to other banks to like prevent that from happening. So now Synapse just seems like a good company. What the fuck?
Allowing that migration to take place when it would seem that everyone knew the records were not accurate and reliable and that there was a shortfall, because that has really compounded the difficulty of trying to unwind.
And shortfall, for all of those who don't know the meaning, it's like when you're in the red, like when you're failing to make do, when there's like clearly inefficiencies and inconsistencies
in this situation and understand what happened.
Exactly. Why would you shuffle everyone's money around to different banks if you hadn't sorted out where everyone's money was in the first place? This is the first question I brought to Evolve, the question of the shortfall. Evolve's position appears to be, oh, there's no shortfall of funds at Evolve. But that can't be true based on their September 2023 correspondence. They're the ones who said you didn't fully fund the account. There had to be a shortfall. Now, how big exactly it was is a little trickier to figure out. Not that I haven't tried. Remember, I do have a bunch of internal banking records from thousands of customers, which, by the way, I can't believe they didn't make me sign an NDA for or redact in any way, which I thought was incredibly irresponsible. Make me sign records from thousands. Not that I haven't tried. Remember, I do have a bunch of internal banking records from
Is this
not that I haven't tried. Shortfall. Now, correspondence. They're brought to Evolve. The question of the short can't be true based on their September 2023 correspondence. They're the ones who said you didn't fully fund the account. You're out. Not that I haven't tried. Remember, I do have a bunch of internal banking records from thousands of customers, which, by the way, I can't believe they didn't.
Wait, so Evolve just gave them a bunch of documents without any security that's gonna stay like hidden. I guess they had to do that though, because look, if Evolve is doing some dodgy shit, right? I guess to have good faith of the financial private eye, you would give it to them, without signing any NDAs. But I guess he caught that, and he's criticizing that as well. So now I don't know, man. I think Evolve did a big oopsie in that scenario. It didn't go as planned.
Make me sign an NDA for or redact in any way, which I thought was incredibly irresponsible. Either way, essentially, I looked through everybody's, bank records. It was monthly statements for Synapse's customers going back literally years at Evolve. And I used a couple of scripts to turn these PDFs into a database and queried it for certain fees. Now, I was able to reproduce some of Synapse's claims. It does appear true that Evolve seems to be charging a bunch of fees to customers' accounts that they...
So he found a way to prove Synapse's claim. Hey, yo. That's dank, bro. Fuck me.
They really shouldn't have, and it does go back years. Let me repeat that because it's really important. Customers were being charged improper fees directly from their accounts that should not have been there.
Legit bank, by the way.
And to my understanding, those
bro.
fees have never been repaid. Why didn't Synapse address this sooner? I don't know. It seems like they brought it up only in 2020.
Yeah, okay, so I agree with that sentiment. So that's another big red flag by Synapse's part there. If they knew it, why didn't they address it? That would have earned everyone's respect right there. and could have put Evolve in a situation where then they had to remediate like instantly and probably face like legal troubles. So then what is Synapse hiding? And like why did Synapse resort to giving it to other banks rather than addressing it? So maybe there is some truth to Evolve saying to Synapse that nah, you actually owe us money. So then what? If you just fantasize about it for a second, so then would this whole ploy by Evolve be as a way to kind of take vengeance on Synapse for being like for not for just being dumbasses?
When this has been happening for like several years. I can't figure that out. But Evolve's position seems to be much harder to explain. They say that some of these fees were owed by Synapse, that was part of their master agreement. But I got a copy of that agreement, and it seems like those fees like were put in place later. It's very confusing. But the point is, did the customers ever get their money back? I asked Evolve about this.
The one thing I don't get is why was Evolve so willing to give them those statements if they knew that it makes them look bad? I guess really that was just a slip up on their end. So what is
in an email
Jesus.
And was sent?
Bro, there's so many questions, man. Holy shit.
Evolve's lawsuit with Yada. In it, they kind of appeared to admit in the lawsuit that there were improper fees, but maybe it was an admit in an email. And the point were owed by Synapse, that was part of their master agreement. But I got a copy of that agreement, and it seems like those fees like were put in place later. It's very confusing. But the point is, did the customers ever get their money back? I asked Evolve about this in an email and was sent Evolve's lawsuit with Yada. In it, they kind of appeared
classic
to admit in.
But debiting the allegedly wrong account for fees was indisputably owed with more fraud. Classic, bro. Oh yeah, it was just an administrative mistake. Definitely wasn't any fraud.
In the lawsuit that there were improper fees, but maybe it was an administrative mistake, and specifically that might be made up for by this reserve account, which they funded mostly using Synapse's money, which I think is funny. Quote, Evolve transferring over $35 million from the reserve to customer accounts. Later, they state they had up to $43 million in a reserve account by the end of 2023. It's worth emphasizing that while Evolve says there was never a shortfall, and even if there was, they had it covered, the reason Synapse went bankrupt is kind of because of this shortfall. According to the Wall Street Journal, Synapse tried to sell itself and neared a deal with TabaPay. But TabaPay walked away over concern about the potential size.
Whoa. A lot just happened in a few seconds there. Wait, when did Synapse... Oh, wait, the charges, right? Because of the shortfall. Is that how Evolve had Synapse's money? I completely missed how they got that money.
Which they funded mostly using Synapse's money. Maybe it was an administrative mistake.
He doesn't say.
And specifically that might be made up for by this reserve account, which they funded mostly using Synapse's money. Which I think is funny. Quote, Evolve transferring over $35 million from the reserve to customer accounts. Later, they state they had up to $43 million in a reserve account by the end of 2023. It's worth emphasizing that while Evolve says there was never a shortfall, and even if there was, they had it covered, the reason Synapse went bankrupt...
And so there's 8 million... What?
Kind of
there's
because
8 million
of this
missing.
shortfall. According to the Wall Street Journal, Synapse tried to sell itself and neared a deal with TabaPay. But TabaPay walked away over concern about the potential size of the shortfall.
So now they're trying to sell to TabaPay, the fucking payroll company? So a brokerage is trying to sell itself to a payment provider. What the? But then they walked away because of the shortfall. And the shortfall is because of all the money that's with Evolve. But then Evolve, for some reason, uses the client's money to cover fees. Which then led to Synapses making no profit, which then in turn gave no profits to either Juno or Yota.
People familiar with the matter said. Now, yes, to those of you who have paid attention.
Wait, so Evolve is just like, they're just yoinking, bro.
TabaPay fees is part of the reason for all this disaster, and they also almost bought Synapse. Confusing, small world. The point is, how can Evolve say there's no shortfall, but everyone else seems to think that there is? Whether or not you believe this comes from improper fees that they took from customer accounts, I don't really care. The point is the chain of events here. Synapse notifies Evolve of missing funds. Evolve then says, okay, funds are deficient. Synapse, you owe $50 million to cover any possible liabilities. We're blaming it on you. And by the way, we're going to keep $16 million or so this month. Obviously, to make sure your customers get the money they're owed. Of course, this leaves Synapse and the fintechs that rely on it strapped for cash. Synapse reacts by moving a lot of their money outside of Evolve on an opt-out basis to other banks. But by this point, both parties, Evolve and Synapse, both know that there's a shortfall in the customer accounts. Both disagree about how big it is, who's responsible for filling the gap, but both of them still move the money, which makes no sense. Because suddenly, the discovery of these mistakes is swept under the rug and all the money's shuffled around. So was the money actually like missing? Was it covered in the reserve account? We don't...
Yo, this shit is so like bizarre, bro. Like, it's actually getting like to the point where it's so hard to keep up.
Actually have a good way of knowing, but it gets even worse.
Holy fuck, bro. Yeah, I mean, he was right at the start when he's saying that this is just like it's like everyone's fault except the customers. The customers got fooled by the fucking FDIC insured, so we can't blame that on them. Even though, no, it's not their fault. This is just fucked, bro.
As one of the big events that actually led to this collapse was the Mercury migration.
There's another one. There's another one, bro. Holy shit.
Mercury is yet another fintech company that confusingly markets itself as a sort of bank like Yada or Juno. On Google, it's described as Mercury Bank. And
no, that's Fivehead, bro.
and directly underneath that, Mercury is a financial technology company, not a bank. Clear as mud. Anyways, Mercury Bank, which is not a bank, worked with Synapse up until 2023. And they were by far the biggest client with over $3 billion in assets.
Holy
but one day, they decide they don't really need Synapse. They want to work directly with Evolve. Now, that would be fine, but when you have a gap in customer funds, or might have a gap, it starts to get a little questionable because Mercury got paid out. They migrated. They got all $3 billion. Once again, Jason Mikula explains why this might be a problem.
But just because, somebody was using Yada and happened to have their Yada balance assigned to Evolve versus Mercury or Nomad or Yield Street or whatever, who, maybe wound down their program earlier, like there is no justifiable reason why these Yada and Juno users should be the one, eating the losses just because they were sort of like the last man standing, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think the point is, once you realize there's a shortfall, people running for the door should start to be very heavily scrutinized because exactly the problem you said, which is that it just becomes sort of like there's this moment at FTX where everyone realizes like,
this is like a This is like a dystopian version of the financial crisis that happened in 2008. But it's like, in a sense, it's like flipped, because the customers had like, how do I just like break this down? So in the 2008 financial crisis, one of the contributing factors was ninja loans, as well as the existence of CDOs and synthetic CDOs, and eventually, uh, eventually there was just no profits happening. It was just a lot of banks got bled because of a bet, right? A bet that some of these financial people were doing. They were betting against the market, essentially. But the reason why I'm saying it's similar is like the effects that were caused, right? It's not like a one-to-one comparison, but it's like in a sense, there's bleeding happening. There's banks in this situation of financial technologies and a brokerage that are bleeding, and then but like the difference with it is this is all internal. And man, luckily this practice is like, it's not common, because this could have escalated to even a worse scenario. It's still not a great thing. It's horrible. A lot of people are innocent people are getting just screwed over for trusting said banks. Oh, that's fucked up, bro. Yeah, like the aspect I'm saying that there's a correlation is the shortfall. Other than that, there's literally no comparison. But it's like the fact that there's this massive shortfall, and it's affecting multiple financial institutions. That's the comparison that I'm drawing towards. And just like how it happened in the 2008 financial crisis, and how it's happening now, it's the customers that are suffering.
So they may not have all the money. Everyone runs for the door. Some people are just faster than others, right? And that seems to be a huge problem here where, and I don't want anyone, like at the end of the day, no end user should have to bear the brunt of this.
Let them cook.
But if you're actually thinking about what it would look like for billions of dollars to take a loss on this, maybe you're looking at maybe 95 cents on the dollar, maybe 90 cents on the dollar per customer.
He's being generous there.
Whereas now we're having a lot of people get made completely whole, and some people basically getting zero, or maybe 10 cents on the dollar. This is like so unfair. And this even extends to Yada itself and like customers themselves. They're getting these wildly different statements where some people go, I got all my money back. Why? I don't know. It's like literally the funny thing is, Yada began as a lottery. It is a lottery.
Okay, there you go.
Congratulations, you got what.
Wait. The
funny thing is, Yada began as a lottery. It is a lottery. Congratulations, you got what you paid for.
So they're no longer a lottery? But then they ended up doing lottery anyways by just playing with your funds?
Because we are literally rolling the dice with whether your money is there or not. And
how is that company still existing, bro? Holy shit.
It has nothing to do with you or your decisions, the quality of your decisions. This is literally, we put our money in the same exact place, and for reasons that are completely unrelated to us, you get no money, I get all my money back. That makes no sense. I hope by now you're grasping how gross this whole situation is. Mercury Bank.
But who is he saying? Who? In that little monologue he went, who's getting the money back? What is it, Evolve in this case? Because we know Synapse ain't getting shit. They got bankrupt. Yoda and Juno are just yoinking. Well, it's not even them. It's Evolve. Evolve just yoinking Yoda and Juno's clients' funds to cover fees. Who's winning in this scenario? I don't get how he ended on that conclusion. I guess it's Mercury, because Mercury, yeah, okay, yeah, it's Mercury, because Mercury got the $3 billion back. Ah. Yeah, this is fucked, bro.
got 100% of their $3 billion or whatever
Right,
back.
right.
While the much smaller fintech companies are eating up to a $96 million loss. We're not exactly sure how big the shortfall is, for absolutely no reason really, other than Mercury left Synapse before it blew up. I should note, Mercury would unequivocally deny that they moved for any improper reasons or that they were at all part of the cause of this collapse. But I do think we should be skeptical of the timing of all this, because in behind-the-scenes emails from Synapse to Evolve, we find out that Mercury decided to leave Synapse the same day that Evolve said there was...
Bro, this situation is fucked. So what did Synapse do? Where they were in a situation where they had to pay off Evolve. Because he said earlier in the video where the reserve funds is coming from Synapse. But then Evolve for some reason is still yoinking clients' funds to cover fees, which caused the shortfall. But why was Synapse covering Evolve's ass? Why were they so willing to ride this mess instead of one of the other, like, I guess, snitching or addressing it publicly, so that there would be more, like, not publicly would have done nothing, like legally, because then but Synapse had no money. Okay, yes. Sorry, I fucking forgot to hold my mic, so there's probably sounded like gibberish, but bro, I'm just so baffled, bro.
There's a deficiency in the FBO.
Fuck.
So did Mercury find out that there were problems at Synapse before anyone
Actually, they had to, right? Because I was with the
else
league.
run for the door? Or was this a very coincidental timing and they had planned it all along? I asked Mercury and they told me, quote, Mercury made the decision not to renew its contract with Synapse long before informing Synapse of the decision to terminate the relationship. Also,
I don't. That just seems like a way to not make you pry.
Telling me, quote, having direct relationships and integrations with our partner banks was in the best interest of Mercury and our customers, clearly denying any coincidental timing. A month later, though, they also sent me another message saying Mercury has decided to end its relationship with Evolve Bank and Trust.
No, So Mercury first they dip with Synapse, but then they also dip Evolve. So what were Evolve and Synapse cooking, bro? Like what did they think they could have gotten away with? Because surely that's the only reason why it ended up in this state, right? But then it didn't work out, so that's why it's failing.
Make of that what you will.
So then Synapse gets bankrupt. But maybe, because sometimes bankruptcy is a scapegoat to kind of escape. And it's like a way, like, for example, back with the whole CDOs and the financial crisis, right? When CDOs were a thing, banks would create in some cases would be LLCs. So it's like a separate company that has no correlations to the actual bank. So then if something was to go wrong, they can claim bankruptcy on those LLCs and it will have no adverse effects on the bank itself. So is that what happened here? Is Synapse taking a fall because they're not a bank? So it's like, it could be manageable, I suppose, to some extent. And then something's telling me there's some, like, it's like some sort sense of private dealings occurring. This seems like a big play, like those like 5 head plays. You know, like this is probably some like intense game that's being played by both Synapse and Evolve. Now, mind you, this is a speculation. This is just some guy in Australia just talking shit, but I feel like that's the only reason why it's happened to this extent. Because Evolve is a bank that's existed. What it said from Wikipedia since 2005. Surely they know what the fuck they're doing, right? Maybe the reason why this seems so stupid is because it's calculated. It's what I'm trying to get at here. Maybe this is all just
I should also
a massive play.
note one of Evolve's executives left the company around the collapse, citing integrity.
Integrity. See, doesn't that kind of add up now if that's the line of thinking we're going with, that this is some big master play and one of the executives leave citing integrity? Maybe he just like, nah, this is actually just, this is depravity, this is deplorable, and I don't want to be associated with it, so then he leaves out of integrity. But mind you, these are all allegations. These are just opinions of some random dude, right? So
As the reason for him leaving, Evolve Bank and Trust had no comment on this, understandably. Multiple other executives have also left the company. Now, I have extensively questioned multiple other executives.
I thought they were all saying something now.
Also left the company. Now, I have extensively questioned Evolve for months about all of this, and I finally found one lead worth pursuing. Remember when Evolve noticed the shortfall? It withheld funds from Synapse. It put them in something called a reserve account. Well, throughout my conversations with Evolve, they referenced this account.
So that's what he meant by using Synapse's funds. Oh, it's the payment that he was about to give. Evolve was about to give to Synapse, so then Synapse could give it to Juno and Yora. But because of some issue, they were not giving it and putting it in a reserve account. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Synapse is giving the money. Okay, that makes
as if it still had money to pay people, saying that they had $43 million in reserve to pay out customers at the end of 2023. And along the way, I asked them, well, did you pay it out? You know, given that nearly $100 million may be missing, it would go a long way to fill that gap. And they told me, quote, we have provided updates regarding the reserve accounts in several of the bank
classic, bro.
Hearing filings. Those hearings and filings are
I mean, they're intentionally playing it so safe. You have to think that this is it's bigger than them just being incompetent.
Public. Evolve continues to hold reserve accounts on behalf of end users to be used as necessary, which is a very unhelpful way of answering a yes or no question. Did you hand out the money? Evolve instead points me to mountains of documents in a bankruptcy hearing, but funny enough, the person in charge of that bankruptcy seems confused also about Evolve's position. This is according to the bankruptcy trustee herself. Quote, Evolve has declined to report the potential use of reserve funds to pay end users. So that's an alarming statement coming from the person whose job it is to know where the money is.
So you could decline it when you're filing for bankruptcy, because that's what this was, right?
To report the potential bankruptcy trustee herself. Used also about Evolve's position. This is a
fuck me, bro. That was
according to the
I'm so sorry about that.
hearings and filings are public.
Wait, so we have provided
Evolve continues to hold reserve a way of answering a yes or no question. Did you hand out the money? Evolve instead points me to mountains of documents in a no question. Did you use as necessary? Which is a very unhelpful way of answering a yes or no question. Did you hand out the money? Evolve instead points me to mountains of documents in a bankruptcy hearing, but funny enough, the person in charge of that bankruptcy seems confused also about Evolve's position. This is according to the bankruptcy trustee herself. Quote, Evolve has declined to report the potential.
Okay, so if I'm going to stick with this concept that this is a master play, well, what is the end goal here? Is it vengeance? Is it a secret dealing? Because they're refusing to provide the reports.
Use of reserve funds to pay end users. So
this is in a bankruptcy hearing for Synapse.
It's an alarming statement coming from the person whose job it is to know where the money is in a bankruptcy. On Evolve's website, they say they hold $35 million in reserve.
Evolve is holding approximately 46 million. If the wait, yeah, wow, they're just yoinking Synapse here.
Reserve funds it will distribute.
So it's stating that this 46 million end user funds. So they're holding that from Synapse as well as they're holding Synapse's payments. So they're both the same fucking thing essentially.
If the reconciliation indicates such distributions are appropriate, but whose reconciliation? That's the whole problem.
And then 35 million and 43 million. Which one is it?
Problem, isn't it? Is it Synapse's or the one Evolve hired out that says they don't owe any extra money? Right? They've been using that to disagree with everybody. So what are we talking about here? According to them, they've paid out the money. There is no shortfall, meaning the $35 million is not owed to customers and instead goes where? Well, I asked them exactly that, and they responded, the funds will be handled in accordance with the relevant terms of the parties' master bank services agreement.
This is fucking horrible, bro.
Which again is not helpful. And it concerns me that
this is exactly how I felt when I finally could comprehend what was the cause of the 2008 financial crisis. I'm experiencing the same feelings.
Maybe Evolve is trying to find a way to hold on to this money for themselves, saying that they paid out everybody and that this is just millions of dollars extra. If they didn't think they could do that as an option, they can and should just say so directly and publicly. They did not. I was also confused about exactly how much money they had.
Give me a sec. Okay, I'm back.
Emails to me, they mentioned $43 million at the end of 2023. According to their website, they have $35 million right now. What happened to the $8 million difference? I asked them about this, and once again, they refused to answer, citing, quote, ongoing legal processes that prevented them from discussing it. Look, I'll tell you where the money is as soon as all the lawsuits about missing money come to a close. To be clear, I think everyone in this story should be scrutinized. But Evolve is a regulated bank, and regulated banks, most of all, and people with money in their reserve accounts, even more so, should be scrutinized the most, especially since Evolve is where the shortfall started in the first place. Remember, months before anyone knew about the missing funds, them and Synapse were disagreeing about it in internal emails. So while, yes, I am in favor of a full reconciliation with all the data across all the banks, until we get that, we need to look at who still has money in this ecosystem and who had the money when all these problems first started showing up. All the while holding in our mind that, like all complicated stories, this is not just going to be a matter of one bad guy, Evolve, you know? I do think Synapse rightfully deserves plenty of blame as well, as long as we remember that Synapse is not the name people trusted and that ultimately they're in bankruptcy and can't pay more than they have anyways.
Yeah.
The reason ultimately people cut...
True. No one actually knew of Synapse. It's either they just knew the financial technologies like Yota and Juno, because Synapse was like the brokerage. I mean, from that Wikipedia article, it said that Evo's been doing this type of agreements since 2017, right? So how is it all of a sudden in 2024 and 2023 they get like in a mess? I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a mistake. I think there's something else going on, and I don't think we'll ever be able to hear that until some legal actions are taken. And to even be in a situation where that would have to be unveiled would require some, like, what would it even require for it to even go on a trial? And I don't think it's even possible.
Customers trusted these fintech companies is because they saw FDIC.
Eva would have to make some type of severe mistake, but from what I've seen in this video so far, they have kept their cards. Like, they know what the fuck they're doing, which that makes it even scarier, right?
FDIC insured slapped on the label and reasonably assumed that the regulated banks would keep them safe, and they absolutely did not. Not to mention, we can't forget about the regulators either.
We are not going to get a believable, satisfying answer about what happened here absent some kind of litigation or congressional. Basically, people need to be under oath answering questions.
I agree.
Or producing documents in response to subpoenas before we are going to have a true idea of what happened here.
But how would that even happen? Like, what would it take for this to even occur? Because I've been saying it over and over again, but Evo has been playing the cards right. Synapse took the fall. TapBaPay kept the distance. The financial technologies were like kind of the face. So like for the untrained eye, they would just see, oh no, it's just the financial technologies being dickheads, because you know they've gotten a bit of a bad rep over the years. At least in America, I'm not talking about Australian ones, but oof. And then there's the whole Mercury situation. In this, so far at least, Mercury and Evolve played their cards like, it's sad to say, but they just did.
Like,
and maybe Synapse, but it's hard to say for certain. We'd have to, a few years have to go by before that statement can even mean anything.
Would like to see, Evolve leadership, Scott, Sankit, before a congressional investigatory committee where they are testifying under oath.
But it's sad. It's really sad that the customers got used here. They just got used. It's really fucked up.
And the Fed, actually, for what it's worth, because the Fed absolutely asleep at the wheel, not doing its job, supervising specifically Evolve. There are other regulators at play, but the Fed by far holds the most culpability here.
Yeah,
the fuck are the Feds? Is he talking about like it can't be the it can't be the cops, right? Federal.
It's true. Jason has a point here. As much as it's Evolve's job as a regulated bank to have the right controls in place, it's also the regulator's job to make sure all of this is happening. Now, recently, this
could
was
be
actually
a
brought
Federal
up
Reserve
and addressed directly by the Fed chairman.
In April
what 2024,
Synapse,
Chairman Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Yeah, okay. The Honorable.
Financial Technologies, a fintech company that provided banking as a service solutions, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Chair Powell, since the Federal Reserve Board is a supervisor of the Evolve Bank and Trust, could you provide any updates on what you are doing to ensure that my constituents receive their funds and the expected timeline for them to receive their funds?
So as their supervisor, as you point out, we've been pressing that bank to get money back to their customers, and we're actively engaged with the bank as they take steps to do so and return that money. We're deeply concerned about the complaints that we've heard
Wow.
and aware of concerns
Classic, bro. Fucking absolute classic right there.
raised during the bankruptcy proceedings. And to the extent there are violations of law, we'll follow up on that.
Well, there you have it. The Fed is deeply concerned. Unfortunately, there's not much of substance beyond this concern. We know that Evolve does not agree they owe any more funds. So what exactly does Jerome mean when he says this?
We've been pressing that bank to get money back to their customers, and we're actively engaged with the bank as they take steps to do so and return that money.
Whose money are we talking about here? And whose reconciliation are we relying on? Are we talking about the 35?
Yeah, yo, what are they actually referring to? They can refer to a lot of things. They can refer to Synapse. They can refer to the what do you call it? Clients. Yeah, I think those are the main ones, right? What else could they be referring to? Money lost. Tabby paid. They didn't end up getting paid through client funds, so it doesn't really fucking make a difference. Unless oh no, yeah, I guess yeah. So if they give the clients money back, then they have to also do Tabby pay as well.
$5 million Evolve holds in reserve to be used as necessary. Like, yeah, that'd be great, but we haven't seen it. So yes, I'm glad Jerome is concerned, deeply concerned, but concerns don't pay bills. If you really want to know how things are actually going in a way that isn't sugarcoated, just listen to the bankruptcy trustee, who in her last meeting said to the victims, quote, "I hope you get some resolution. I'm increasingly pessimistic that resolution
Wow.
will happen here." And that is the cold truth. Look, I don't really know how to wrap this up. I'm going to be honest. There's so many people at fault here, so many ways.
Yeah, there is just no way it could end this on a good note, bro. This is a fucking train wreck, bro.
You could slice the blame up, and I don't know how to close it in a way that's not depressing. Like, honestly, I considered scrapping this video many times because there's not a great resolution here. It's just you can explain that something very deep has gone wrong, but what else? I mean, I can't tell you that the funds.
This is like it's left on a cliffhanger, you know. It's just it's. I guess you could say. No, I don't think even this is the climax. I think this is just in the story where the people with good intentions are they're just getting a beating, and that's fucked up. We're not even anywhere near close for this to become for this situation to wrap up and for the rightful people to have the win.
Are magically going to appear. At some point, though, I realized if I didn't report on it, it's kind of like erasing the experience of all these people who've slipped through the cracks of a regulatory system built to protect them and that didn't, and is now trying to forget that they exist. So I'm making this in the hopes of just bringing Evolve to the table to spend tens of millions of their reserve funds on the people who deserve it. I also hope it gets more regulatory attention and forces all the banks to the table to share their data and ultimately.
Yeah, it's like as I searched up earlier, what the reconciliation meaning is then AMG, Lineage, Evolve, as well as the financial technologies like Yota, Juno, Mercury. You can also kind of involve Synapse in a sense, to then all just put the documents, all the statements, all the data on the table, just so we can get to the crutch of the situation.
Pay their fair share, but until then,
that's the only way a proper remediation would occur. But
I will be honest, it is a very grim picture, and I'm afraid the people who we've spoken to, there is a real chance that they won't get justice here. Until then, all we can do is tell their stories and honor them.
I was putting all this money into the savings account with the hopes of one day being able to purchase a house, and I was getting close to that goal up until everything was frozen.
I don't have a consistent paycheck that I can plan off of, so that's kind of my money.
Like, the one thing I want to say is, look, from from what we've seen in this video, these innocent clients, they clearly know how to handle the finances, right? So the one question I have to ask is like, why couldn't they do it with like a traditional bank? Why did they do it through like this method? And no shade to financial technologies, they exist, right? But particularly Yota, that's the one that gets me so confused. They literally promoted themselves as a lottery, and now, oh, fuck, now all of a sudden they're a bank or a financial technology. Now they're explicitly a financial technology. So then how can you trust that a lottery that became a bank is going to keep your funds? That's the one thing that I have to say towards the clients, but the rest is it's beyond that. It's barely their fault. I mean, like I said, not as I said, but as it was shown in this video, the financial technologies were using this FDIC insurance to make themselves seem legitimate through the help of Evolve. So that's where that it doesn't end to a conclusion. It just stops. No matter what you think about the situation, there's no way you come to an understanding.
Need to make sure that I make it through to when I can actually make money again. And so I don't lose my house, don't lose my car. You know, I can pay all my bills on time.
$0 is insane,
it's
man.
very, very important for me to have that fund behind me.
Imagine there was some people there was that one guy, 77,000 plus, bro, and he's getting zero.
Money's already tight in this day and age, so to not have access to that large of a sum of money is pretty depressing.
And initially when it hit, it was just like, oh, I'm out $20,000. But now that time has gone like by, I realize that it's not just the money that's gone, it's the time that I put in to
and the trust. I think
make that money.
The trust, man. Like clearly you were willing to trust a financial technology, and they just backstabbed you.
And
sure, it wasn't their fault. I mean, I'm still leaning to the fact that this is more towards Evolve and Synapse as like the main culprits, and then the other aspect of it is that the financial technologies were basically lying, right? That's the other fault here. Then it's also, you could also put in the Federal Reserve for not taking adequate actions into the fray. And then the whole brokerage deal with AMG and Lineage. Like, what the fuck, bro? The fact that even happened is insane.
It's just a waste of time at the end of the day, like multiple years of my life.
So yeah, in short, I basically said it's all their fault. But I still think there's something to that Synapse and Evolve thing, man.
Been in not great health for a couple of years now. I'm recovering from a surgery to remove kidney cancer.
Jesus,
I've got chronic pain from 2 car accidents and a hip surgery, a thyroid condition, polyp in my gallbladder, etc., etc.
This guy's going through it, man.
The $53,000 was part of a settlement from the car accident. I've been selling stock from my inheritance to pay bills rather than using this money, which was supposed to be for day-to-day expenses and rent.
I consistently put the same amount every paycheck this whole time, and I never touched the money because that's what it was, like emergency fund. And funny enough, this year everything happened. The house had issues, my mom got sick. I mean, the list goes on, and it's so funny how when you actually need the money, I don't have it. So yeah, that money meant a lot, and it's been difficult. It's been difficult for sure.
Hi, quick update. After recording and pressing Evolve for months, they finally provided a public update saying they found more money at their bank belonging to customers.
What? How? Maybe this go along with that theory that I'm really clinging on to, that there's something between Evolve and Synapse, and that this is just like a massive play between them two, and that um this is the angle they were going towards, so this is how they win, maybe. Or maybe this is an act of desperation to also to cover their tracks from any legal repercussions, to slowly and surely just sprinkle some of the funds back to clients to avoid severe repercussions. So there's two ways you could look at it. Maybe it's this is the winning scenario, or this is the end game type scenario.
And they sent it out. They declined to say how much was found or whether they used the reserve account to pay it. But from public reports, some are getting paid back fully, others a little bit, and others are still getting nothing. Evolve is now offering to help the financial costs of a full reconciliation across all banks, which is a credit to them, but it's unclear whether that's going to happen. It's all left me wondering how it's possible for banks to find customer funds they've had for almost a year but didn't know they had. Either way, I hope this gets resolved soon. I hope Evolve finds the rest soon, or somebody does, and they use that reserve fund to make people whole. These people have waited long enough. Thanks for watching. It's the last update I have.
You know, I really thought by the end of this video I'd be able to like add more to it, but I really fucking can't. What a train wreck, man. Jesus Christ. I will say that that's a fantastic video by Coffeezilla. That was insanely good, but shit, man. These are real people that just got stiffed, bro. Stiffed by what they thought they could trust. And some of the clients, man, you heard like that dude that had health issues. The other guy that all of a sudden his life is now going into a spiral where his house has issues going on. Some other stuff are happening. That's really bad. But yeah, I'm really sticking to the fact that this is some massive ploy. But especially that last bit there, it really does seem that it's kind of backfiring. It had to, right? If they were willing to not like decline if they've been paying back not paying back, but giving clients their funds, and then all of a sudden they just did it randomly and now are cooperating, surely that means that something did not work out. But like I said, it's hard to say. I mean, even that expert that he had on, there's no way we can ever know unless it's under oath. Fuck, man. Yeah, there's no good way to close this, so I'm just gonna fucking end it here. But yeah, take care, guys, and just be careful, man, because some of these people, bro, they just love to take.